Right? Should you purchase long-term care insurance? A lot of us, it's not something we think about often, especially if you're relatively young, if you're relatively healthy. But the statistics of people as they age who need some sort of assistance as they get older. This could be nursing home, assisted living facility, maybe you have a private home care, some sort of service, someone who takes care of you, paid service other than kids, is really staggering. And so we see all the time, unfortunately, more frequently than we'd like to see, people who end up just having to use whatever savings they had to pay for these long-term care expenses. It's not cheap, it's really expensive. So long-term care insurance could be a potential option. What most people, when they start thinking about long-term care insurance, when they start thinking about long-term care, they're not even really thinking about insurance. When they start thinking about, hey, as I get older, who's going to take care of me? Most people just think Medicare, right? Medicare that if you've been paying into, if you've been working, most people are going to get some part of Medicare, assuming it's still around. We'll see, but most people think government Medicare is going to take care of it, and Medicare will cover up to a point, but there's a lot of things, and people really don't know this, or unfortunately they find this out when they go to cover for nursing home care or something like that. That doesn't cover it, or it doesn't cover everything that they might need, or it doesn't cover the quality that they want. So then they end up having to pay out of pocket. So most people, again, it's sort of like, insurance. You hope you're not going to get into an accident, but you're really glad that you have insurance when you do get into an accident. Same thing with long-term care. Now, you might need it, maybe you won't, but you'll be glad that you have it. Only a couple, there's several things to think about long-term care insurance. Is one, it's not super easy to get, right? It's not like you just call and say, hey, I need long-term care insurance. It's somewhat the equivalent of life insurance, where they're going to make you go through a lot of hoops to make sure that you're insurable, that they're willing to cover you. So start early if you're thinking about long-term care insurance. Don't wait until you need it. At that point, it might be too late. Second, when you do need it, and if you do qualify, if you do get it, there's often a waiting period, a period of time before it actually kicks in. And so during that period, that waiting period, you might have to be paying out of pocket, which, depending on your financial circumstances, you may or may not be able to, and certainly you probably don't want to, right? You want to look at your policy and make sure that it covers you where you live. Meaning, let's say that you're in New York, you take out the policy, you're a resident of New York, but you end up relocating to Florida, right? The warmer weather, lower taxes and whatnot. You come to Florida. Well, we've seen policies that might not cover that. So you want to make sure that the policy you have covers you if you move, or make sure that you update your policy when you do move. There's again, there's certain benefits that are going to be covered. So don't assume that just because you have long-term care insurance that it covers everything. This is one of those things that you don't want to just sign up for and just assume you're good. Really go through your policy, go work with the agent to make sure, and just think about, hey, what about this? What about this? Does it cover me for this? Does it cover me for this as well? How flexible is the policy? How can you change it? Can you move it? Again, kind of talking about the relocation thing. What's the cancellation policy? What are some of those triggering events that will actually cancel the policy? So there's a lot of stuff to look at. I definitely am a fan of long-term care insurance, but it's a process. The other option, depending on your circumstances, is you may want to consider some sort of Medicaid planning. Right now, most of us, when we think of Medicaid, it's low income, right? Or it's low asset. It's means tested, meaning that you can only have a certain amount of money in your bank accounts or a certain amount of assets at any given time. But Medicaid does cover a lot of long-term care needs. So this could be a great option. But if it's something that you're thinking about, kind of like the long-term care insurance option. You can't just wait until you need it. There is a process in order to apply for it. There might be steps that have to be taken. If you've heard about it, there's also what's called a look-back window, meaning the government is going to look back and see what your assets were over the past several years to make sure that you qualify for it. So that might be another option as well. So should you get long-term care insurance? Answer is probably yes. Again, depends on your circumstances, depend on your financial resources and different factors. Definitely something worth looking into sooner than later. You know, there's a time, if you've got an insurance agent, speak with him or her, do some research on it, but start looking at it. And then while you're doing that research, start thinking about Medicaid planning as well. There's a lot of really great options, Medicaid protection trust, different things that you can do. Even if maybe you've got, you know, more assets than you think that would disqualify you, there are types of trusts, Medicaid protection trusts, that would protect those assets where you could still have those assets and still qualify. So again, look at long-term care insurance, look at Medicaid trust, might be a good option for you.